Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Begum with you on this Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee will confer the party's highest honor, the July 1st Medal, on Wednesday. There's uncertainty surrounding the next round of peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. The Chinese community in Venezuela has donated tons of relief supplies following the deadly twin earthquakes last week. In business, production and demand for China's manufacturing sector continues to rise. In sports, one football powerhouse advances at the World Cup, while another is eliminated. In culture and entertainment, a special exhibition gathers museum treasures from across China. Now the day's top stories. General Secretary Xi Jinping of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee will confer the July 1st Medal, the party's highest honor, on model CPC members at a gathering marking the party's 105th founding anniversary on Wednesday. He'll deliver a speech at the event, which will begin at 10 a.m. at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. The CPC was founded July 1st, 1921. At Wednesday's gathering, outstanding party members, party workers, and primary-level party organizations from across the country will also be honored. The Communist Party of China has seen steady membership growth over its 105-year history. The party had over 101 million members by the end of last year, a net increase of over a million compared with the end of 2024. It also had over 5.4 million primary-level organizations, up by more than 180,000 from a year earlier. Female membership numbered nearly 32 million, accounting for over 31% of the total. Almost 60 million members had junior college degrees or above, representing 59% of the total. Ethnic minority members made up 7.8%. More than 12 million party members were aged 30 or under. CPC members come from all walks of life, including workers, farmers, professionals, and students. Leaders of African political parties say their exchanges with the Communist Party of China have provided valuable lessons on governance and development. Albert Manyabugingo with the Rwandan Patriotic Front says party-to-party cooperation has helped to build mutual respect and strengthen ties between China and Africa.
This being also a people-to-people Chinese year, we've seen a lot of exchanges and we've seen actions actually being taken from the lessons we've learned through the transformation journey where, the CPC has really put the people-centered governance before. And this is the same thing that Rwanda, through the leadership of RPF and President Kagame, where, in 2015, he said a very powerful word that we made three choices of the people: staying united, being accountable, and thinking big. And if that resonate well as a people-centered governance of CPC, we've seen the transformation journey.
Francis Mwamba of the United Party for National Development of Zambia says such exchanges should continue.
Such interactions remind us of where we're coming from. Very critical. We need to keep the same spirit. And it should trickle down to the people. We should continue appreciating this relationship because it's strategic, it's important. It's a lot of exchange, knowledge, culture, and also opportunities.
Darius Jolikower with United Seychelles says he's found similarities between his party and the CPC.
I have been able to trace the landmarks that the CPC has gone through over the past years to be able to achieve what they have now. Similarly, in my country, Seychelles, it has been the same. Our party has gone through some march, some fight for us to be able to achieve what we have now, so that our people is beneficiaring with the promises that we have. The aim was for equality and to provide opportunity for everyone. So this was a fight beneficiaring for the people. So it's quite the same, similar when analyzing and when observing the fight that the CPC had.
Seychelles has celebrated the 50th anniversary of its independence. Chinese Transport Minister Liu Wei attended the celebrations in Victoria as a special envoy of President Xi Jinping. On Tuesday, the presidents of the two countries exchanged congratulatory messages over the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. China launched the first secretary campaign nationwide in 2015, sending capable officials and professionals to live and work in villages, revitalizing the rural economy by bringing fresh resources and new ideas to the countryside. In Zhejiang Province, a university martial arts instructor not only brought her expertise to enrich a village's tourism offerings, but also developed branding for a wide range of local farm specialties. Li Yunqi reports.
Most first secretaries have to traverse through winding mountain roads, but for martial arts instructor Wan Xianzhang from Wenzhou University, she's lucky that she got a refreshing ocean view for 2 years. In early 2024, Wan was sent to Zhenao village to turn her university expertise into rural change. Before any work started, building trust came first. Wan launched home visits, a public feedback system, and even led morning workouts for elderly villagers. Small acts, but they were proven effective.
The village party secretary suggested I make door-to-door visits during the Chinese New Year, since many migrant workers return home to see their families. There was indeed a lot of people that came back. I walked through all the alleys and spoke with the returnees. Then I gradually got to know what I can do for the villagers.
The shift from campus to coast wasn't easy. In university, work follows academic logic. And in a village, every idea must win support from the public, fit in with current policies, and collect available resources before an idea becomes reality. The first few projects were nothing grand, just tackling daily nuisances, fixing a smelly pond, repairing sewage pipes, coordinating between government departments, small but necessary steps to build trust and her reputation. It didn't take long before she created Haisha Fest, a martial arts form blending local island spirit, traditional techniques, and the movements of local fishermen working on tidal flats.
Many government
bureaus organize regular party-themed events, so I reached out to some of them and offered a packaged experience to visit Zhenao village, learn Haisha Fest, and finish with a hands-on climbing session on the tidal flats.
Today, Haisha Fest is taught in local schools, and over 20 tour groups have come for cultural experiences, generating tens of thousands of yuan in village revenue. Meanwhile, her local duck egg branding project secured nearly 4 million yuan in funding and sold over 100,000 yuan worth of eggs during the Dragon Boat Festival alone. For one, she never expected to bring such tangible changes, nor did she ever imagine herself becoming a village secretary. But after 2 years in Zhenao, one started to realize why there's a national campaign for people like her to work in the village.
Unlike traditional village secretaries, with first secretaries come with resources and channels of our own. I see our role as a bridge that better connects the village with outside support.
Wan's term ended earlier this year, but the systems she built have remained and continue to benefit the village. She said rural revitalization isn't one-way given, but mutual enrichment. The village gains expertise, the young official gains experience and a deeper understanding of China's rural reality. For the Beijing Hour, this is Li Yunqi.
Rural revitalization is often measured by new industries and rising incomes, but on the ground it can also mean helping farmers solve everyday problems, one family at a time. Zheng Pingjun, the first secretary in a village in Jiangxi province, reflects that reality. Zheng Tao reports.
At 7 o'clock every morning, Zhang Pingjun begins another busy day in Chenshan village. His first stop is a plum orchard owned by a villager with disabilities, whose wife is seriously ill. Together with his colleagues, Zhang helps harvest, sort, and weigh the fruit before moving on to his next task. Later, he visits a poultry farm, checks construction at a breeding project, and spends the afternoon packing peaches and coordinating deliveries to market. For Zhang, a first secretary assigned to the village nearly 2 years ago. Rural revitalization is built through countless practical jobs.
We are here not just to help the village committee. We're involved in every aspect of rural life. The real goal is not administration, it's helping people improve their lives.
That philosophy is reflected in his work helping villagers get back on their feet. One of them is In Shigui, who returned it home after his construction business failed and decided to raise green-shell egg chickens. Facing shortages of funding, experience, and sales channels, In struggled to get started. Zhang stepped in, connecting him with government canteens, supermarkets, and online procurement platforms. He also helped him secure loans and complete the necessary government procedures.
Ordinary villagers don't know how these systems work. We do. We know who to ask and where to go. So we guide them through the process step by step. Starting a business here is never easy.
Today, In's poultry farm has expanded from fewer than 10,000 chickens to a planned capacity of 100,000, with demand continuing to grow. But Zhang's work goes well beyond economic development. When a 70-year-old villager living with Alzheimer's disease went missing last year, he organized a village-wide search with residents, police, and drone teams until the man was found safe. He also spends much of his time mediating family disagreements, land disputes, and neighborhood conflicts.
People come to us because they trust us. Each side believes it's right. Our job is to help them calm down, understand each other, and find a solution everyone can accept.
For Zhang, roads, industries, and incomes all matter, but he believes trust is the foundation of rural revitalization. By solving one problem after another, whether it's selling fruit, supporting a farmer, or helping settle a dispute, he hopes to make life a little better for the people of Qianshan village. For the Beijing Hour, this is Zhang Tao.
Coming up, the uncertain status of U.S.-Iran peace talks.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
13 past the hour. Uncertainty surrounds the next round of U.S.-Iran talks in Doha. U.S. President Donald Trump says officials from both sides will meet on Tuesday in the Qatari capital. But Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Begay denied any meeting with the U.S. in the coming days. Adel El-Marouki has more from Doha.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced that Qatar will host a new round of talks with Iran. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and envoy Steve Witkoff will be leading the negotiations. Iran, however, says no meeting with U.S. officials is scheduled this week, which hints either no talks at all or possible indirect talks here in Doha. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian announced 6 out of 12 billion US dollars of Iranian assets in Qatar are expected to be released. The Doha talks are set to focus on reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which got shut due to the resumption of attacks between the US and Iran this weekend. Fragments from the explosions exchanged killed a Qatari citizen and caused the country to ban any water activities until the issue gets resolved. Iran's president said that Tehran will fulfill its obligations toward the Memorandum of Understanding earlier signed with the US only if Washington adheres to it. A reference not only to the US attacks on Iran, but also to Iran's demand for Israel to halt its attacks on Lebanon, which continued this weekend.
That was Adel El-Marouki reporting. Washington and Tehran have traded accusations over breaches of the ceasefire signed 12 days ago. The disputes over the Strait of Hormuz may remain at the center of any diplomatic contact. Kate Fisher has more from Washington, D.C.
Caroline Levitt, the press secretary for the president, confirming that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, his chief envoy are traveling to Doha for talks.
Iran has requested a meeting this week, so Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be flying to Doha for high-level meetings this week as we continue to discuss the memorandum of understanding. On the sidelines of those high-level talks will be the technical talk.
So the White House saying these talks are happening. Of course, it comes after these tit-for-tat strikes across 4 days, which have put this memorandum of understanding, this interim peace deal, in jeopardy. The main issue, the Strait of Hormuz, that vital waterway that ships so much of the world's oil. There seems to be a different interpretation by the US and Iran as to who is in control of that waterway. So assuming these talks do go ahead, I imagine that will be top of the agenda, even though this 60-day time period to try to thresh out a long-term peace deal was supposed to look at things like the nuclear program, which of course is one of the main objectives for the United States when they began this conflict. That may be pushed further down the agenda, given the fact that there is still this conflict over who is in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Shipping traffic significantly dropped over the weekend, although we understand it has started to pick up in the last 24 hours or so, as the US has said that these talks are going to continue and that both sides are standing down. That in contrast to what Donald Trump was saying on social media on Sunday, where he again threatened Iran with essentially annihilation, saying that they would have to go in, the US would have to go in and complete the job if the Iranians didn't keep to their side of this deal, this memorandum of understanding. So once again, we are getting different rhetoric from both sides in this conflict, which has been, kind of a symbol of these talks ever since they began.
That was Kate Fisher in Washington. An Iranian deputy foreign minister says only Iran and Oman have authority over the management of the Strait of Hormuz. Kazem Haribabadi has rejected foreign interference in demining the strait.
We are firmly determined to reach an understanding with Oman on the arrangements for administering the Strait of Hormuz. If, for any reason, Oman is not interested in doing so, the Islamic Republic of Iran will proceed on its own. We will not allow any country to interfere in the mine clearance process in the Strait of Hormuz, not France, nor, at this temporary stage, anyone else. The Islamic Republic of Iran will determine the transit routes under these temporary conditions, and we cannot accept any other route. It is also our responsibility to provide conditions for safe passage. That is why, if vessels use other routes, we will oppose it and seek to prevent it. If anything happens to those vessels, they will bear responsibility themselves.
Iran and Oman will soon start talks on redefining routes through the Strait of Hormuz. Tensions are resurfacing only 2 weeks after Iran and the U.S. signed the Memorandum of Understanding. Seper Saremi spoke with political expert Fawad Izadi on what it means for the goal of reaching a permanent peace deal.
Dr. Izadi, Iran and the United States both have accused each other of violating the Peace Memorandum of Understanding. From your perspective, what does this latest exchange of strikes mean for the future of the ceasefire?
Article 1 is very clear that ceasefire means ceasing fire. United States has violated that with regard to Iran. Israelis have violated that with regard to Lebanon. As you said, they are attacking almost every day. And the excuse they have is that Iran is trying to manage the Strait of Hormuz in terms of passage of ships. This is the accusation they have. But apparently they haven't read Article 5, because based on Article 5 of MOU, that is what Iran is supposed to do, at least for the next 60 days. And the management of the Strait of Hormuz is going to be decided between the two coastal states, that is Iran and Oman. Instead of following the MOU, they have violated Article 1, and by attacking Iran, they have violated Article 5. And unfortunately, this is how Americans engage in diplomacy. They write something down, and then within 24 hours, they start violating what they wrote down.
Dr. Izadi, despite the tensions, negotiations between Tehran and Washington are reportedly continuing. Do you believe that diplomacy can still hold, or are we moving toward a breakdown of the current peace process? Diplomacy can work if the United States wants it to work. If they want to have these talks, keep the oil prices low, because if these talks break down, then it may affect oil prices. They don't want to do that. They want to keep oil prices low. And they want to attack Iran at the same time. And they don't want to do what they are supposed to do under the agreement. You see, they're already violating Articles 1 and 5 of the agreement. So they want to have it both ways. They want to have these negotiations, but they don't want to engage these negotiations seriously. And they are preparing for their next attack. And this is something that Iranian officials realize. So the time is limited. The hope that Iranian officials have is that they use this limited time to reach a diplomatic solution. That's one way. The other way is starting another major war. Last time, during the 40 days of war, the damage to the world economy was $1,000 billion. $1,000 billion. Next time, this could be much bigger, because next time you are not going to have Iranians repeating the same steps of stopping, accepting a ceasefire.
That was political expert Fawad Izzadi. The United Nations has welcomed a framework agreement that was described as a first step toward peace between Israel and Lebanon. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric called it a milestone toward peace.
The trilateral framework between the U.S., the State of Israel, and the Republic of Lebanon, announced on June 26, constitutes a milestone in efforts to end decades of conflict and advance lasting stability.
The agreement does not include Hezbollah, and a group official warned of civil war. It outlines dismantling Hezbollah and returning Lebanese territory taken by Israeli forces. UN peacekeepers report continued Israeli ground activity, but no recent rocket fire. Many displaced Lebanese are returning home, though 50,000 remain in shelters with unexploded ordnance posing a risk. Coming up, the Chinese community in Venezuela steps up with donations following the deadly earthquakes last week.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
We're at 23 past the hour. Venezuelan authorities say the twin earthquakes that struck the country nearly a week ago had killed over 1,700 people as of late Monday, with over 5,000 injured. 10,000 volunteers are taking part in the rescue and recovery work. The Chinese community in Venezuela has donated nearly 1,700 tons of relief supplies. Stephen Gibbs reports from Caracas.
Well, as we come up to 5 days since this catastrophic double earthquake, we are still seeing people rescued. Just unbelievable, amazing stories coming out from the worst hit area of people who have survived for so long and owe their lives to these rescuers, both local and international. There was one man, 106 hours under the rubble. He seemed okay. He is being taken to hospital care. And there are many, many, many other stories. The rescue operation is definitely continuing. There is a bit of hope, because those who can find space or water, even though they are trapped under rubble, those are the ones that can survive perhaps for a week or more. But at the same time, the focus is moving towards what to do next. You have thousands of people displaced. The Venezuelan government says it is expecting many of these will have to live in camps, like almost refugee camps. There is the whole healthcare problem, an area without proper running water, with intermittent electricity. That risk, therefore the risk increases of infectious disease. So what we've been seeing is field hospitals being set up, many countries sending these. India has already set up one. The United States is talking about setting up 4. That will alleviate a bit of the pressure on the domestic health service, which is under very, very serious pressure, with 10 times the normal demand for medical care. We've also seen a big effort for donations. China is actually sending some aid. The Chinese community here, a big community historically. It has assembled hundreds of tons of aid, which is sending down to that worst hit area. We've seen that all over Venezuela, really. People watching these awful, terrible images and feeling themselves, even if they're not directly affected, hopeless, but wanting to help, and they are doing that as best they can.
That was Stephen Gibbs in Caracas. A UN representative in Venezuela says officials are procuring thousands of body bags, with the number of deaths from the twin earthquakes likely to rise. Authorities are setting up emergency shelters for the displaced, with tropical weather systems threatening to bring heavy rain. Mitch McCann reports from New York.
The UN's resident and humanitarian coordinator in Venezuela said on Monday that there had been 500 aftershocks since Wednesday's initial devastating earthquakes, describing the situation as a high-risk environment for rescue teams. Gianluca Rampolla said the officials are procuring 10,000 body bags, but are hoping the total number of deaths will be lower. He added that a weather system heading toward the country on Monday threatened those who have lost their homes in the destruction.
We are focusing with government on emergency medical care and working rapidly on setting up emergency shelter. There is a tropical wave that is expected in the next hours to reach Venezuela, and this will bring heavy rains. You can imagine what this means for the displaced people.
There has been a significant response from the international community following the major quakes, including more than 2,200 search and rescue specialists from 27 countries, assisted by 140 rescue dogs. Despite the critical 72-hour window passing, Gianluca Rampolla noted that there were people still being found in the rubble.
And this is one of the miracles of this country. Rescuers are still being able to pull out alive people. Yesterday alone, 7 persons were pulled out of the rubble.
That was a report on the aftermath of the twin earthquakes in Venezuela. The UN Security Council has held an open meeting to spotlight Israeli settlement activities in the occupied Palestinian territory and the dire situation in Gaza. During the discussion on Monday, China called on the international community to take actions to reverse the current negative trajectory. Ambassador Fu Song says peace must be restored in Gaza, urging all parties, and particularly Israel, to fully comply with the terms of the ceasefire.
History has consistently proven that security is shared. No country's security can be built on another's insecurity. Neither military occupation nor political pressure can ever bring about lasting peace.
Fu warned that the two-state solution, the only viable path to resolving the conflict, is steadily being eroded. He says the ceasefire agreement has not brought true peace, pointing out that Israel continues to carry out bombings, killing over 1,000 Palestinians in Gaza since the truce took effect. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza remains severe, with critical shortages of aid and deteriorating sanitary conditions. Fu also says Gaza and the West Bank are inalienable parts of Palestinian territory, and that any future arrangements must respect the will of the Palestinian people. In northern Gaza, desperate Palestinians have crowded around a charity kitchen in Jabalia, clutching pots and plastic containers for a share of cooked stew against a backdrop of widespread destruction. Resident Majid al-Balawi says they are in great difficulty.
Here in our neighborhood, we rely entirely on the soup kitchen. In the north, there is nothing. If it weren't for this soup kitchen, we wouldn't be able to manage. The situation is difficult, prices are high, and there's no money to buy anything.
While food shortages continue to grip the enclave, the United Nations says operations remain heavily constrained by access restrictions, leaving civilians without enough food, clean water, health care, or shelter. We're at 29 past the hour. Checking the forecast before the break, and Beijing is expecting thunder showers tonight, becoming cloudy tomorrow. A low of 21. It's up to 30 on Wednesday. Shanghai will see heavy rainfall easing to moderate tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 26. Chongqing has a light rain in the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 28. Nanchang will see heavy rainfall easing to moderate tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 29. Alaska is getting showers this evening, cloudy tomorrow, a low of 12 and a high of 24. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see a light rainfall tonight, moderate rain tomorrow, a low of 31. It's up to 41 on Wednesday. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee will confer the party's highest honor, the July 1st Medal, on Wednesday. There's uncertainty surrounding the next round of peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. The Chinese community in Venezuela has donated tons of relief supplies following the deadly earthquakes. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host,
Shane Bigham with you on this Monday. Still to come. In business, production and demand for China's manufacturing sector continues to rise. In sports, one football powerhouse advances at the World Cup, another is eliminated. In culture and entertainment, a special exhibition gathers museum treasures from across China. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. But now check out the day's headlines. A meeting of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee has urged strong measures in flood prevention, drought relief, and emergency work in China. General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee chaired the meeting, which noted that China will see a higher frequency of extreme weather and climate events during the main flood season this year. The meeting called for putting people's safety first, improving the accuracy of monitoring and forecasts, and decisively organizing evacuations when needed. It stressed strengthening the management of flood discharge areas in rivers and lakes. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Seychelles President Patrick Hermine have exchanged congratulations on the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations. President Xi called on the two countries to deepen cooperation and promote common development within the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative and the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. Hermine said Seychelles firmly upholds the One China principle. He vowed to deepen bilateral ties and hailed China's support in helping his country improve livelihoods and promote development. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will visit Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Norway starting on Thursday. Wang will hold talks with his counterparts during the week-long trip. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said China's relations with these four countries have developed steadily in recent years. Guo Jiakun said there have been substantial outcomes from cooperation in areas like the green transition, trade and investment, and technological innovation. The Qinghai-Shizheng Railway celebrated its 20th anniversary, or will celebrate its 20th anniversary on Wednesday, having carried over 100 million passengers and more than 820 million tons of cargo since 2006. Stretching nearly 2,000 kilometers from Xining to Lhasa, it's the world's highest and longest plateau railway, a landmark project that ended the region's isolation from rail. Daily passenger trains have grown from 5 to 13 pairs, now connecting Lhasa to 14 major cities. Freight service has expanded from 24 to 136 trains daily, with cross-border routes reaching 4 countries. Officials say the railways boosted economic growth, ethnic unity, and living standards across the snowy plateau. China's launched a software platform to help scientific programs run on domestic computing systems. Developed by the Chinese Academy of Sciences and other institutions, it tackles issues like software adaptation and code migration, key bottlenecks as China builds its own computing ecosystem. The new platform connects algorithms, code conversion, and applications. Its base layer integrates 16 high-performance tools adapted for domestic systems, boosting core performance over tenfold in some cases. It also includes a code conversion model called BoundX, which reduces the need for time-consuming rewrites. Researcher Wang Yangang says materials science teams can now quickly build applications suited to domestic systems, speeding up research and structural screening.
For example, research teams in China working on new materials can use our platform to independently and quickly build application software suited to domestic computing systems. This can enable faster iteration in materials research and support structural screening.
Well, developers say the platform lowers technical barriers and enables seamless integration across the entire research chain. The United Nations is demanding an immediate halt to Israeli settlements in the West Bank. UN official Ramiz Alekbarov told the Security Council that construction on settlements and infrastructure should stop immediately.
I reiterate the Secretary General's strong condemnation of the relentless expansion and acceleration of Israeli settlements in West Bank. These developments further entrench the unlawful Israeli occupation and threaten the viability of a fully independent, contiguous, and sovereign Palestinian state. All Israeli settlements and related infrastructure have no legal validity, constitute a flagrant violation of international law, and must cease immediately.
Alekbarov also condemned escalating settler attacks and all violence against civilians, and he stressed that all perpetrators must be held accountable. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, production and demand for China's manufacturing sector continues to rise.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 past the hour. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Tuesday. The Shanghai Composite was up 0.5%. The Shenzhen Component gained nearly 2.5%. Home appliance component and telecommunications equipment shares led the gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index declined over 0.6%. Japan's Nikkei climbed almost 0.9%. The Purchasing Managers Index for China's manufacturing sector rose to 50.3 in June, up 0.3 points from the previous month, marking expansion for the fourth consecutive month. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, key sub-indices showed that production and demand expanded at a faster pace. The production index stood at 51.4, up 0.2 points from May, with the new orders index returning to the expansionary zone at 51.2, up 1.3 points. The Bureau says amid easing global trade tensions, new export orders also picked up and moved back into expansion. Four industries such as agricultural processing and computer and electronic equipment, production and new orders indices were up around 54, indicating strong supply and demand. Large enterprises continued to expand, recording a PMI of 50.7. Medium-sized businesses saw a notable rebound, with their PMI climbing to 50.5, up 1.9 points from May. The percentage of manufacturers citing high raw materials costs dropped to 32.3%, down by 0.8 points, marking a decline for the second consecutive month. The second quarter average PMI reached 50.2, returning to growth territory after 5 quarters in contraction. Meantime, the non-manufacturing PMI covering the construction and service sectors came in at 50.2 in June, up from 50.1 in May. And for more on the PMI figures, Lincoln Humphreys spoke with Associate Professor Shirfan Chi from Peking University.
So China's official manufacturing PMI bounced back to 50.3 in June, returning to expansion. Is this the beginning of a sustained recovery or just a short-lived lift from restocking, export orders and policy support?
From my perspective, this is indeed showing some early sign of recovery, and it is not like a 1 month bounce back. On the other side, it is hard to claim that it is, or it is too early to claim that that this trend is a sustained growth. So first of all, we see that it's a not one-time bounce back, because if we look at the general trend, is that if we look at the year for 2025, we see that the most reading of PMI was below 50, and actually there were 8 consecutive months of a contraction from April to November, all the way to November. But for this year, we're actually seeing the readings at or above 50 starting from March. So this is indeed not a one-time bounce back, but it's a clear trend. And also, we see that there is support or micro foundation. So this is not isolated from the broader economy. For example, we see that trade is showing resilience, and we have seen expansion for up to 16 from 16 to 17 months. And also, the high tech sector is providing a lot of support for the sustained growth. On the other side, as I've just mentioned, it is hard to overstate. First of all, we do see that the domestic demand is still facing some kind of pressure, and also small firms are lagging behind. So even though we see the medium and large firms are having positive reading, but for small firms, it is down 0.3 to 48.5. And also that for the second half of the year, usually we face more challenges. And that is true for both 2024 and 2025.
So the PMI breakdowns show high-tech industries are pulling ahead of traditional sectors. Does this faster growth point to a genuine structural upgrade, or is it more about a few export-focused winners that are shining through right now?
I would view it more like indeed a structural upgrade, but it is part of the global picture. It is not only China specific. So we need to weather more shocks before seeing that the upgrade we are indeed seeing a long-term upgrade. So first of all, we do see that this is a general improvement for growth quality. And as you've just mentioned, that for the high-tech manufacturing, the reading has been consistently above 50 throughout this year. So this is indeed a kind of upgrade. On the other side, it is not China specific. So globally, we do see very high growth in AI, semiconductor, data centers, advanced electronics, and they are becoming the major drivers. Since we are part of the global cycle, so the China's growth will need to face a lot of global cycles and global shocks. For example, we see in the US, these rising memory chips are already affecting downstream suppliers. Like Apple is already raising the prices of some of the products like Macs and iPads. So this can be both an opportunity for China if we can move up the value chain to provide some kind of this memory. There can also be some kind of shocks to the downstream firms. So we will see.
I was Associate Professor Shifan Qi from Peking University talking about China's latest PMI figures. China and the European Union have officially established their bilateral trade and investment consultations. Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao and European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security Maroš Šefčovič co-chaired the event in the first meeting in Brussels. William Denzel reports.
In this brief statement, they say the main objective is for the two sides to strengthen dialogue. The statement goes on to say there is a view to stabilise and make this bilateral relationship more balanced. Now, we have had some insight from Maroš Šefčovič speaking to the press in a quick breakaway from these talks to give some more details as to what's included in this trade and investment consultations, or this TIC. Now, essentially, it's broken into 4 parts that will frame ongoing conversations for the next few months: trade balancing, export controls, intellectual property rights, and WTO reform. Now, Maroš Šefčovič has given some insight into the nature of the talks so far here in Brussels. He says they've been intense, they've been focused and constructive. Ultimately, he says that the status quo is not an option, but he certainly hopes by ramping up a dialogue, he hopes that real progress can be made. He says that he'll be seeking some of that progress to be evident by the autumn. He says he'll be making a trip to Beijing in the coming months. He says by October, he certainly hopes to see that there will be an improvement in this current situation.
That was William Denzel reporting. The Global Economic and Trade Friction Index from the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade stood at 106 in April, remaining at a high level. The total value involved in global economic and trade friction measures decreased nearly 29% on a yearly basis, but increased 5% on a monthly basis. Among the 20 countries and regions under monitoring, the United States, India, and the European Union topped the index. Among the 13 major industries under monitoring, manufacturing. The focal points of economic and trade friction measures were concentrated in the electronics, machinery, and transportation equipment areas. China's reusable Zhutrui-3 carrier rocket has successfully completed a firing test on the ground, laying a solid foundation for subsequent flight missions. A static fire test is a critical pre-launch procedure in which a rocket's engines are ignited with the vehicle secured to the ground to verify its performance and safety. Landspace, the rocket's developer, says all systems function normally with the accuracy and coordination of system operations confirmed. All key ground verification work before the launch is now being completed. In the next phase, the test team will carry out launch preparations. Yiwu in East China has registered exports exceeding 315 billion yuan in the first 5 months of the year, and that's around $46.4 billion, up 9%. According to local customs, export value of the world's largest wholesale market for small commodities topped the 300 billion yuan threshold 1 month earlier than last year. Exports in May alone reached nearly 85 billion yuan, up 63% on a monthly basis. In the first 5 months, Yiwu conducted trade with more than 230 other countries and regions, with exports to ASEAN playing the leading part in all major markets. Singapore will raise regulated electricity and town gas tariffs for the third quarter after higher natural gas prices driven by the conflict in the Middle East and increased energy production costs. The Energy Market Authority says the household electricity tariffs will increase 17% before goods and services tax from the previous quarter. Town gas tariffs will rise 7.1%. The city-state imports most of its energy needs, with natural gas accounting for around 95% of electricity generation and town supply. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, one football powerhouse advances at the World Cup, another is eliminated.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
46 past and turning to sports now. Brazil has booked its place in the last 16 of the FIFA World Cup after coming from behind to defeat Japan 2-1 in Houston. Japan took a first half lead, but Brazil responded after the break with goals from Casemiro and a dramatic late winner by Gabriel Martinelli to seal the comeback victory. The five-time world champions now advance to the next round, where they'll face either Cote d'Ivoire or Norway. Brazil head coach Carlo Ancelotti praised his team's display, saying it was their most complete performance at the tournament so far, while stressing that there's still room for improvement.
I think that so far, this has been our most complete performance. We had more problems in the first half creating chances because Japan was very well organized defensively and closed us down effectively. We found a solution in the second half by delivering more crosses and putting more players in the penalty area. I think it showed our progression because while we hadn't had problems finding space in other matches, we did in this one, and we solved it very well in the second half. We should never be satisfied with what we're doing. We're doing things well, but when you're doing things well, if you want to improve, you can't be satisfied.
And for more, we have Yang Guang in the studio. Now, what was the key turning point in Brazil's comeback win?
Well, Brazil's recovery was built on half-time tweaks and sheer patience. After Japan took the lead, Ancelotti urged his side to keep their shape and trust that chances would come, and they did. Bringing on Endrick as an extra attacking threat was brilliant. It forced Japan's defenders to track every single runner in front. His presence on the right drew defensive attention, which freed up Vinicius Jr. to exploit the space on the left. On the other side, Japan, keen to protect their advantage, dropped deep and essentially ceded possession. That gave Brazil time and space to figure out their attacking routes. The shift to a cross-heavy approach paid off instantly with Casemiro's headed equalizer. From that point, the momentum swung decisively and the winner felt like a matter of time before it arrived. So for me, the turning point was a 50-50 split. Brazil's tactical adjustments combined with Japan's decision to draw back far too early.
All right, and in the meantime, Paraguay has produced one of the biggest upsets of the FIFA World Cup, knocking Germany out of the round of 32 after a dramatic 1-1 draw and a penalty shootout victory in Boston. Julio Enciso gave Paraguay the lead in the first half before Kai Havertz equalized for Germany after the break. A late German goal in extra time was ruled out following a video review, sending the match to penalties. Germany then suffered its first ever World Cup penalty shootout defeat as Paraguay held their nerve to secure a famous victory. The result sparked celebrations back home with Paraguay's president declaring a national holiday. Goalkeeper Orlando Gil was the hero of the shootout after making a couple of crucial saves. He said careful preparation helped him deliver on the biggest stage.
The truth was, I felt tickle in my stomach, saving the first penalty. I really studied the penalty takers a lot, and thanks to God, I was able to guess correctly on the first penalty. After the second one, it was a man's emotion.
And so it's Paraguay now advancing to the last 16, where they'll face either France or Sweden. Germany's missed the last 16 for the World Cup 3 times in a row. Yang Guang, what do you see as the main issues driving this repeated collapse?
Well, Germany's third straight early exit is no coincidence to me. The squad looks tactically rigid and structurally unbalanced, overcrowded with playmakers Wirtz and Musiala, yet Joshua Kimmich is wasted as right back. And Leroy Sané rarely takes on defenders without support out wide. But the glaring issue is the absence of a true striker. Julian Nagelsmann must bear the brunt of this criticism. This Germany side seems to have gotten how to fight off the ball, leaning too heavily on possession play with no plan B. Against Paraguay's deep block, their passing was predictable and lacked bite, and that penalty shootout loss exposed a brittle mentality far removed from the resilience that once defined them.
All right, thank you very much. Morocco has booked a place in the World Cup last 16 after a dramatic penalty shootout victory over the Netherlands following a 1-1 draw in Monterrey. The Dutch side had taken the lead in the second half, but Morocco struck a late equalizer in stoppage time to force extra time and ultimately penalties. The match finished 3-2 in the shootout. In the decisive shootout, Morocco goalkeeper Yassine Bono made a key save before Ismail Saibari converted the winning penalty to seal qualification. Morocco will next face co-host Canada in Houston on Saturday. Morocco is one of 9 African teams that made it to the knockout phase this year. That's a record for the continent. Sports analyst Gladys Medecha explains why Morocco's performance stands out.
The African team that has impressed me most is Morocco. Of course, they started their campaign against a very tough Brazil side, took an important point against Brazil. They've shown previously that they can manage against the big boys in the tournament. They're not afraid. They're defending as a team. They have a very solid midfield. And when it comes to attack, they're not afraid to attack. They're scoring goals. And coming from behind to even win matches and scoring more than 2 goals, that already tells you their intention. If you look at how well they play, even back here at home in the African Cup of Nations, they've been doing well getting into the final.
Well, that was sports analyst Gladys Medecha talking about Morocco's performance at the FIFA World Cup. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, a special exhibition gathers museum treasures from across China.
我爱你, I love you. 我爱你. This might be the easiest way to say I love you, since there are so many other romantic expressions. No matter if you're a rookie
你好，我的中文一点点
or a sophisticated learner,
我来北京5年了，我是本地人。
there is definitely something that will interest you. Check out Takeaway Chinese, a word that starts with 你好.
53 past the hour, turning to culture and entertainment. Some of China's most beloved museum treasures stepping out of display cases and into everyday life. A special exhibition marking the 10th anniversary of China's cultural and creative development efforts is opened at the Hubei Provincial Museum, bringing together more than 1,000 products from nearly 70 museums and cultural institutions across the country. Mike Fox reports.
The exhibition at the Hubei Provincial Museum offers visitors a rare opportunity to explore some of China's most popular museum-inspired creations. As the host institution, Hubei Museum is displaying more than 200 of its signature cultural products. 17 museums from across the province have also contributed nearly 100 representative items. China's museum cultural and creative industry entered a new phase of development development in 2016, when national policies encouraged museums to make greater use of their collections through creative product development. Over the past decade, museums have expanded far beyond simple replicas of cultural relics. Today, institutions are developing comprehensive intellectual property brands, digital collectibles, interactive experiences, and cross-industry collaborations, with tens of thousands of new products launched every year.
Across China, museum cultural products are increasingly being developed as IP series and brand ecosystems. The industry is moving toward digitalization.
Organizers say the exhibition not only showcases creative design, but also reflects the growing role of museums in connecting cultural heritage with contemporary lifestyles. As museums continue to explore new ways of presenting history, China's cultural treasures are finding fresh audiences not only in exhibition halls, but also in homes, workplaces, and everyday life.
That was Mike Fox reporting. 2026 Jingdezhen International Ceramic Art Biennales opened in East China, showcasing contemporary ceramic art from around the world. The exhibition, themed The Future of Porcelain, features over 200 works by artists from 19 countries. Covering categories including vessels, sculptures, installations, paintings, and video art, the exhibition highlights new approaches to ceramic materials, artistic concepts, and production techniques. Organizers received more than 2,500 submissions from Asia, Europe, the Americas, and Africa. An international art committee made up of 46 experts from 11 countries and regions oversaw the selection process. The Biennale will be alongside the 2026 Congress of the International Academy of Ceramics. 2 additional exhibitions are also underway, presenting more than 200 works that combine traditional ceramic craftsmanship with contemporary aesthetics and experimental materials. Well, Ottawa's hosted a cultural exchange event celebrating Dunhuang culture, highlighting the role of cultural dialogue in promoting ties between China and Canada. Dunhuang stands as a 1,000-year fusion of Chinese and Eurasian cultures, born at the Silk Road crossroads in northwestern China. The event in the Canadian capital brought together diplomats, artists, and local guests to explore the rich heritage of the ancient Silk Road. It featured performances by artists from the Gansu Performing Arts Group, who brought Dunhuang murals to life through music and dance inspired by the ancient artworks. Visitors also experienced a display of Dunhuang cave relics and an immersive virtual reality exhibition offering a closer look at the history, artistry, and enduring appeal of Dunhuang culture. One of the world's best-known electronic music festivals is set to return to Shanghai this autumn. The Magic of Tomorrowland will take place on October 17th and 18th at the Hero Dome along the city's Bund waterfront, following its successful debut in Shanghai last year. This year's festival will feature a brand new main stage inspired by Tomorrowland's iconic Planaxis theme, transforming the indoor venue into an underwater fantasy world. Organizers say the event continues to redefine live entertainment. Beijing will be getting thunder showers tonight, becoming cloudy tomorrow, a low of 21. It's up to 30 on Wednesday. Shanghai will see heavy rainfall, easing to moderate tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 26. Chongqing, a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 22 and a high of 28. Nanchang will see heavy rainfall this evening, easing to moderate tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 29. Last is getting showers tonight, becoming cloudy tomorrow, a low of 12 and a high of 24. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see a light rainfall tonight, becoming moderate rain tomorrow, a low of 31 and a high of 41 for Wednesday. That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee will confer the party's highest honor, the July 1st Medal, on Wednesday. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the Art of War will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war, with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope, the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Seazong Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth, as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kunlun to the winds of Tangula, the wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.